Hey, good morning, everybody. It is April 23rd, 8:17 a.m. Everything is going good. It's supposed to rain today, but it is not currently raining. It's absolutely beautiful outside. Would you guess my thing is telling me MCI? So in my lower left, a couple of weeks ago, my Windows did an update, and it was awesome. Right in the lower left, it showed the time, the temperature, and like a little icon that sort of indicated if it was sunny or whatever, what the deal was. And so I got like sort of in the habit of looking over there and being like, expecting to get some useful information. And then about a week afterwards, I started getting like some sort of, instead of what I wanted, I started getting like some sort of news kind of thing. So then now it showed like MCL video something, and now it says headline wealthy America dot dot dot. It's just so effing lame. And it is kind of like sort of the nature of dealing with things these days. But anyways, so I used to be able to look over there and see the temperature. Now I can't. So I guess I'm gonna quit looking over there because it just doesn't seem to be worth it anymore. But I'm guessing it's probably like 55 degrees, maybe 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's nice. It's really nice. It's supposed to rain. It said it was 2 days ago. It said it was going to rain for 3 days in a row. It did rain for like 3 hours yesterday, which is really like beloved around here because what happens is we get a lot of pollen, and when it rains, all the pollen gets knocked down, and everyone feels a lot better. But that is neither here nor there. So it is 8:19 in the morning, and I have an almond for Rhett, and that should keep her busy for a little bit once I put it over there. So she was getting that. Now she's paying attention. You want this? You want this, Rhett? So let me go ahead and put this over here. Try to balance it. Oh, it fell down. So that should keep her busy for a little bit, climbing down and getting her almonds. She really likes those almonds. We ended up with a whole bag of them, so that's what she's been getting for a little while. But there's that. So I have it running this material service. So I do want to write the spec. Now I was thinking about it, how like if I had been just working specs, like if it was just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to try to get all my unit tests going, I probably would have been able to knock it out so much faster because like every day there's a bit of a ramp up again to sort of figure out what I'm doing and all that. Whereas if I was just knocking them out, back to back to back, I could get them done quickly. But then, I honestly wouldn't be learning as much because by the end you're just sort of going through the mechanics. You're no longer learning. And I mean, what is the point? Especially if you're working on like sort of a passion project where you're just trying to play around and learn things. Like, what is the point to doing, putting yourself into a zombie sort of just going through the motions kind of thing? So that's what I was thinking about. So anyways, it says I have 2 out of 6 of my statements executing. I thought there was a lot more statements in this thing. So let's go ahead and click in there. Oh, there isn't much in there. Yeah, 3 material. Okay, so there's not a whole lot. So we create a mirror. What was I looking at yesterday? I must have been looking at the ST Material Service. ST. I don't even see a ST Material Service in here. I don't know what I was looking at yesterday, but I remember I was looking at like a bunch of if-thens because things had to be destroyed and stuff like that. I don't really know. That's weird. That is so strange. Anyways, I'm having a very, very false memory of yesterday. So anyways, so it looks like all we need to do is create the material and get the material by the ID and make sure that it got created and that it actually does have the same ID. I think that's really all we could do with these tests at this point. In the future, we'll probably have a little bit more robust testing for this, but for now, So we're going to create our it statement, which an it is a test, and a test is a spec. So it is in many ways a synonym with test, which is in many ways a synonym with spec. I would imagine there are some subtle differences between them, but anyways, the it apparently requires only one, because I'm not seeing an error, but it does accept two. Actually, it can accept three things. It can an expectation, which is the textual description of what the spec is checking. Okay, so actually this is useful. Define a single spec. A spec should contain one or more expectations that test the state of the code. A spec whose expectations all succeed will be passing, and a spec with any failures will fail. Will be passing. So it's so weird. It's that all succeed will be passing. A spec with any failures, seems like will be failing, or it should expectation that all succeed will pass, and a spec with all failures will fail. But anyways, those are kinds of fun things to think about. And then you can also give it the assertion, and that is a function. So, and I've been calling it a callback, but another word for that is an assertion, a function that contains the code of your test. If not provided, the test will be pending. Interesting. And then timeout. So it's not required. A timeout is a custom timeout for an async spec. I've never seen that used before. So anyway, so should create a material. That's all this thing should do. It should just create a material. And then this is our assertion. And our assertion is another name for an assertion is a callback. I think a callback's a more general name. And assertion will create a function. Or we'll create a variable. And we're going to just assign a number. And we're going to call it material ID. So normally we would generate one of these on the ST side, but over here on this side we're just going to assign one. And we're going to say that's the number 1. And then const. And then I guess we don't need that. We can just say service. So that's been just the general standard name of whatever we're testing is called service. If there's a name and if I created a name, if it was material service, then that would be a support. The way we've kind of set things up, that would be a support. Something that we've created to support the actual test, not the thing we're actually testing. So create material. So we're going to have it create a material, and we're just going to give it our homegrown made ID. And then we are going to get our ID back. And we're going to say, we're going to get our actual material back. And this is going to be a 3 material. And this is a 3 mesh normal material. And I've noticed that it's kind of hard to type these in. Oops. This. And the reason is because we need this import. And so I like to do my anything that's outside of Angular. So as the last set of imports. So now is equal to service dot get material by ID and our ID, which is material ID. So we define that on line 20, and then what we're going to do is we want to create our expect function. Now I noticed that we could do this, expect, and we can just mouse over and it'll tell us stuff. Creates an expectation for a spec. So I felt like this one, this it was really nice. Really gave us really good. I think this is a little bit less useful. But apparently it returns a nothing matcher, and it has 3 overloads, which believes is, I believe another way of saying that is it has 3 different signatures, and I think a signature is like the number of arguments that it'll accept. So there's like, I guess, 3 of them. And I don't know if we click into this. Yeah, there's no. So anyways, expect, and we want to get we want our material, and we want it to have I don't know what we would expect. I guess we just expect our material to be truthy. So we basically just want it to exist. We want it to exist and not be like a null or an undefined or something like that. And I think that will do it. So we hit save, and in this scenario, it looks like it ran. It may have run itself again. I don't think so, because we didn't get any results. So I don't think it actually ran. And it doesn't always. Sometimes it runs on its own, and sometimes it doesn't. But if you come over here and refresh, it will actually run. That sort of forces it to run. So you notice now we got this. And maybe it was going to run. Maybe I just didn't wait long enough. But let's see. And we have our 100%. We are at 100%. So now the next thing I always do is I hit undo. I just get rid of this F. So that F forced it to only run that describe. I believe F stands for focus. Yeah, see, so now it's running all of the tests, and we still have 100%. And that looks good in the neighborhood. So now we want to go to our renderer, and we want to focus on the renderer. It's kind of weird because renderer seemed like mesh should be next. Maybe I skipped mesh? Is that what happened? Material, mesh. Oh, I think this is what I was looking at yesterday. So let's go to mesh. It's always good to just sort of double, triple check yourself every chance you get. There's so many, unfortunately, maybe that's probably going to be the next level of coding, is where it can sort of figure out what you meant, when you wrote your code. We probably are getting there. That would be neat. That would be neat if you just sort of wrote some code out and it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we think this is what you meant, and then it writes it. Let's see, I don't think it ran. See, we never got like new stuff here. So I put an F. We didn't get any new stuff there. It doesn't seem like it's working on anything. So now if I hit it is weird how our language is getting very slurry. I've noticed that like I slur a lot, and I used to slur a lot compared to other people. And then I play Frisbee with a lot of people that are a lot younger than me, and they slur like crazy. They kind of have like a lisp. It's like our language is going in that direction. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about yesterday. I guess I accidentally kind of jumped ahead to material. And I think this is going to be much harder one to test. This may be the hardest one to test. because it has to dispose of materials. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, so I guess I had kind of skipped material service, or maybe I lost material service or something like that. But and this actually has more stuff, like it has update and update the material and update the geometry. Oh, and this is my mesh. So see, so the thing is a mesh is made up of two things. It has, and it can accept one thing that it has in it is the geometry that describes what it looks like. So in this case, the geometry is a cube. But then the other thing it has is the material, which is like what its skin is. And so this thing has two things. It can create a mesh, which is we are getting, and we actually did write code to do that. Oh, and we already have two things: should process an array of materials. But then we don't. We need to test mesh, and we actually need to test it in such a way that where this dispose is material dispose. See, the default value of this is true. Oh, okay, so where this dispose is set to false, where it's saying, hey, go ahead and update the mesh, but don't oh, apparently we need to, and this was probably something that we had to write. I bet you we had to write this code because of TypeScript. But this mesh material doesn't necessarily have to be an array. It can be an array, and we're always using it as an array in our code, but it doesn't have to be an array. And that's probably a real pain in the butt that we're going to have to figure out. So we're going to have to create a mesh, and when we create a mesh, we create a new 3 mesh, and we return the ID. And then when we get our mesh, see, I think what we get it with a material. The mesh comes automatically with the material, but the problem is that the material isn't necessarily an array, but I don't think we have a way. I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take that material and modify it outside of itself to force it to not be an array. And I don't even know how we're gonna do that. Get mesh by ID. Because the problem is that this thing is always going to get the mesh by the ID, and the mesh right there, and so I have to modify this. So I basically have to code it in such a way that would never ever happen. So this is a perfect example of that. This is the first time I've run into this, where it's like, this isn't going to happen. I had to write this code here because TypeScript says it's possible for this to be not an array. So then what I need to do is when this is not an array, then it'll do this. It'll just dispose of it. But yeah, like, how do I make that happen? I guess that is the question. So like, okay, so like, to take another step back, see how this is like a cube and it's got 6 sides. You can give each one of these sides its own material, and or you can just give it one material, and Angular will know to apply it to everything. It just infers things. Not Angular, but ThreeJS knows. It just infers those, that hey, I have one material, apply it to everything. Oh, I have an array of materials and there's only one in there, apply it to everything. Oh, I have an array of materials and there's 6 in there, apply each one equally. And I don't know what it does if there's 2 and stuff like that. And that's all on 3JS's side, and I don't really want to. I'm not testing 3JS. I mean, it would be good to understand how 3JS works on that stuff, and that's kind of why this tool. A big reason why this tool, the inspiration of this tool, is to be able to test sort of cases like that. And with the tool, when it's done, we will be able to see what actually happens when you give it like just 2 sides and stuff like that. But I have coded it to where it always gets an array over here. And so now I have to figure out how to take my code that always forces it to be an array. Or I could probably say, like, I could get my list of materials and then in TypeScript say, hey, this is always an array, like as unknown as array, and then not have this code here. And then if I don't have this code, then I wouldn't have to test it. And that is like sort of more accurately reflects what the actual code is, because I've locked this down to where you wouldn't be able to create it as not an array. So like, but like if for some reason some edge case happened and it wasn't an array, this code is capable of handling that. So it's like, what do I do? Because the reality is, like, I can write code like to modify this ID. Oh no, I can't. Well, yeah, because I could get a reference to what it's referencing and modify it. But like, I almost feel like this unit test would be more confusing and do more damage than good if I do that. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to modify this code, and instead of looping over, like maybe on this line between 29 and 30, get the mesh material and force and tell it that no, this is an array, and treat it as an array. And the way I'll do that is I will come in here and I'll go to line 32 right in here, and I'm going to say no, this line here, and I'm going to say const materials, and I'm going to say that this is an array. See, this is so confusing. So this can be a material, an array, or it can be okay. So for each material, okay. Okay, so here's where I get my mesh, and then I'm just gonna say, oh man, this is weird. This is so weird. See, the problem is that is a 3 mesh normal material. Can be an array, or it can be. See, I almost feel like this should be like an any. An array of any. Is that, maybe it's lowercase any. It's equal to. that. And then I think I can say, let's go ahead and get rid of this line. I really don't know if this is the right thing to do. I truly don't. I think it is. I think basically it's sort of other decisions before me have sort of forced sort of an uncomfortable okay, and then I guess I should put a comment myself. Okay, so this will always be possible for a mesh dot material to not be errored. But our code always, but context, it is always okay. So the thing is I don't even think we use update mesh material. Well, we probably do somewhere. But fortunately, this code is simple enough at this point that, like, if anything gets broken, everything gets broken. And it feels like everything got broken. Okay. So that broke something. Let's see what it says in the console log. So it did not work the way I was kind of thinking it works. Okay, so it isn't. So it could be like it probably doesn't exist at all. So it kind of seems like what I want it to do is I just don't want to be forced to run that function. Maybe it isn't always an array. Maybe that wasn't what I said wasn't true. Okay. So one thing, okay, before I just call this victory, I'm going to undo, let me copy this into my clipboard. Undo everything. And I just want to double check that that never happens. What I'm saying, my assumption, which I'm not so sure of anymore, is that this never ever happens. 1, 2, 3. Oh, so it does happen. Okay, so in real life that actually happens. So we do need to test it. I don't know if I can reload. I remember there was a time, like, once you had alerts in there, you could not reload. All right, so I was completely wrong. And that's why it's important to test yourself. I mean, so we do dispose that material. Maybe when we originally create one, we end up without a without a, maybe that is our default. I don't know. I don't know. But we do need to figure out how to get that thing covered now that we know that you can somehow create a material that does not have that has a mesh material. See, we actually need to change this mesh. To have, right now what happens is like it has an array of materials, but we need to get, so we're going to have to create our own mesh by an ID, and then we're going to have to get our mesh by that ID, and then we're going to have to take the mesh and assign it a material that is that is not an array. And we probably could mock the mesh to have a material that is not an array but has this. Wow, what's this? Okay, that is weird. This dispose. Okay, so we have our own dispose function here. Oh, so in either case, we actually run the dispose on it. Okay, so what are we looking at time? 8:49. We're looking good in the neighborhood. Okay, so we want to mesh service spec. We at least want to write down what we want our assertion, no, expectation, our spec to do. Should dispose a material is not an array. And we'll give it our callback, which is also called a assertion, I guess is what we're calling it. That's what the second thing is called, right? Yeah, our assertion function. And I know we're gonna need to create a mesh, so we're gonna create our own ID. So const mesh ID. And we are in mesh service. Okay. And we're going to hard code that to 1. And then we are going to create a mesh. Mesh ID. And like these little things like this is really what I think ended up sabotaging the last application. Is these slight little weirdnesses that happen, and I guess we are doing a good job of documenting them this time because we're doing unit tests. Is well, doing a better job. But okay, so create mesh. Okay, so const mesh, which is a 3 mesh. Let's do this. Have not been able to successfully type it without the thing up there screwing things up. And then service get mesh by ID, and we're gonna use our mesh ID. And it did import our 3 for us this time. Oh, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then we're going to update our material. So we need a 3 mesh normal material. So it gets a little confusing. Okay, so we are updating a So we're, oh, okay, so we're giving it a material, and we're saying we want you to assign this material to it. But the thing is we want it to delete, we want the previous material to, let's see what we can do, material, and we want type of, and then mesh dot material. And we should see this appear in here. What we want to see is what the type of it is right now. So it's an object, so it's not even a material. So I wonder what happens if we tell it to, I don't even know what's going to happen if we say service dot update mesh material. This is so weird, right? Because I'm going to give it its own material back. ID1, comma, mesh dot. So it's going to like try to dispose its own material and all that. We really should not do this like in real life, but you know, it's like, hey, we can test it. Wait, you're telling me my mesh material is not of type? Okay, fine. That's material is equal to new 3 mesh. So I think I can just do this, right? Semicolon. Material. And then it defaults to true, so we'll just let it default to true. See what happens. Probably don't need this console log anymore. Hit refresh this so we could see. Oh, so that actually, so by default, when you create one, you do not have, you get that. So that worked. So that, and so I don't know what you would expect. I guess you would expect the ID to, oh wait, oh, update material. Okay, so we're going to get our new, our ID, so that's the return ID, and I guess we would expect our ID to equal ID, mesh ID. And we have increased our lines and our branches and everything a good bit. So now we just got to figure out this update mesh geometry, which I think is going to be very, very similar. Get mesh biology. So apparently it's never even calling this, and it is not desired. Update mesh geometry is apparently not, well, oh, so we never even update the mesh geometry. Oh, okay, so actually we forced it to test it. We actually forced it to be an array there. Interesting. It'd be fun to go back and watch this video. And I actually can, because it is video. It was in video 57 apparently. But anyways, now we are at 8:57, so I got 3 minutes to upload this video. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.